right, so from good news to, I don't know, bland news. Last week we talked about how Stadia was going to have their Stadia Connect. And I watched the Stadia Connect. And there was nothing there. There was nothing there. And before I get into the actual news that came up, I would like to say, so Google Stadia, for everyone who already knows, is, Google streaming game services. They didn't stream this. They put a premiere on it, and then they just dumped the video on YouTube.
Yeah.
They didn't even stream their big kind of... Anyway, I just thought that was very ironic. That they didn't even want to stream. Because they put it like they were going to stream something. And then when the time hit, the video was just dumped there.
Yeah, so, no live premiere either. Because you know how YouTube does live premieres? No, they kind of just put it up.
It was so awkward. That was so funny. So Google hosted a new Stadia Connect live stream that revealed a variety of new titles coming to its video game services. The big title like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, because even though that's on everything else already, like iPhones and Androids and everywhere, Google Stadia, I didn't know didn't have it, which was available immediately on there. Other major titles like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order come out in the fall, when we're all getting our new tech, our new games and stuff like that. You can play a year-old game on Stadia. Madden, FIFA will also come out at some point in the winter, probably coinciding with the new releases. Project Octopath Traveler was announced, which was a Nintendo and Steam exclusive, because it's been on Steam for a while. So it was weird that they were really amping it up, like it hasn't left Switch for any reason. Yeah, it was weird. And then some other small games: Zombie Army 4, Rock of Ages 3, Wave Break, Ember, some weird Crata. That's the Fortnite looking game, right?
Yeah, it's a creator one. Yeah, it looks exactly like Fortnite. It's so weird.
When I saw it, I was like, "Oh,
I don't know how they're getting away with it."
I looked at it, and I was like,
exactly like it.
I was like, "Oh, Stadia's getting Fortnite," and then it's like, no, it's not. And then like they're creating tools, and the way the things are dropping from the sky, I'm like, this looks like every Fortnite commercial I've ever seen.
I thought it was a Fortnite mode, like a new Fortnite mode that they're going to be like, hey, try out this new Fortnite mode that's exclusive to Stadia, or at least a timed exclusive to Stadia. I'm like, oh, Fortnite's a massive game. That's a good get for them. And then it turns out to be some other game. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, that would have been a good idea. As much as I'm not really into Fortnite anymore, putting, Fortnite's still huge. So that's where you would have gotten a little bit of people wanting it. So that's really all that came through the Stadia Connect. They also spent about like 3 minutes having random people, quote unquote, say how much they loved playing Stadia and how much Stadia worked, which was terrible. Terrible.
Talk about overcompensation.
Oh my goodness. So in like wrap up, because there's not too much to say about this. Stadia is still just struggling along there. This was a blog post that they just some reason recorded. They some reason had people just record those random people saying how good Stadia worked. They didn't show Stadia working, which was an aspect. These were just like these people were like outside their houses and just kind of just talking like, yeah, I love Stadia. There's no updates. There's no this. I'm like, at no point did they ever have like anyone from Microsoft or anyone from there come out and be like, don't worry guys, the PlayStation 4 just works. It's great. They don't spend any time. We know the system works. It's because it's not testing boundaries. It's just so awkward that Stadia went amongst this. They also kind of hyped this up like it was very direct or like Nintendo Directs or PlayStation State of Plays, and Microsoft who just comes out of nowhere and just dump a bunch of information on you. They kind of led this up like this is what this was going to be, and in the time when everyone's kind of at home able to really watch these things, you got to give us something to watch. There was nothing there. I wasted my, whatever it was, 14 minutes to see nothing. To see games that are, people have done playing are coming a year later. Jedi Fallen Order, great game. Love it. I still dabble in it every once in a while when I get that Star Wars feel. But it'll be out a year after it's released everywhere, which is super weird. I just don't understand who's in charge of the Stadia messaging, because it is all over the place and it's just bad. This was really just a boring quote unquote video conference.
Yeah, I mean, I always try to be positive about Stadia in the way that I want Stadia to succeed. Now, obviously, I guess you can make the argument, I don't want them to succeed that much because I don't have the service. But as someone who's not in that ecosystem, I would like to see it succeed, because I think generally having another force like Google in the game industry to kind of push this tech forward and give more people getting interested in gaming, especially people who are kind of locked behind that hardware thing and they don't want to necessarily buy a console or buy a gaming PC. This kind of opens it up for them, and if they're able to deliver that, I think that's a great thing. But man, like I try to be positive and I watch these things and I'm like, I don't find anything that remarkable here. Again, it's old stuff here. Now, I would like to say there's some other stuff that weren't included in this live stream of some big games coming in the fall that are also going to be coming to Stadia. I believe the new Assassin's Creed, for example, will be coming to Stadia, and we'll get into that later. And I think that's worth mentioning. But yeah, specifically from this presentation, there's some good stuff here. I'm not going to completely crap on them. Again, as you mentioned, Fallen Order, amazing game. Having it come this fall, basically a year out from when it originally came out, when next gen's going to be coming out, not necessarily the look that I recommend them going for. Octopath Traveler, phenomenal game, so I think that's a good get for them. Again, yeah, it was you could have already played that on PC and Switch. But hey, them beating out at least the consoles, I think that's cool for them. That's something. Madden and FIFA is pretty big. That's a big contingent of the game industry. That's something that's frequently overlooked by a lot of the hardcore types in quotations.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize how many people play those games, and a lot of people don't realize they like to chalk it up to kind of the quote unquote like casual crowd. But I'm telling you, once you leave the United States, FIFA is different. And if you could basically give them the reason, like, hey, you want to play one of the biggest games in the world without having to have a console, I think that's a big value proposition. But again, I think you also bump into the issues where it's like, hey, outside the US, you got a lot of places that don't have good internet infrastructure. That's just a reality of things. Especially when you look at the places where FIFA is the biggest, which is some places in Europe and some places in South America and some places in Africa. They're not known for this amazing Wi-Fi. So they're going to need to figure out some stuff if they really want to supply and demand and meet that perfect equilibrium. Wavebreak looks pretty awesome. Zombie Army 4, not really my cup of tea. Rock of Ages 3, I suppose there's some kind of fan base out there for that. Yeah. Get Packed was interesting. I swear to God, there has to be other moving games. Am I tripping or...
No, so there's
multiple others, right?
There's Moving On.
Yeah, that's on Game Pass now too. So that's I saw that one, and everybody's been talking about it.
There's one on Switch, which I don't remember what it's called, but
and this is a third one, right?
And this is a third one. I believe it's a third, because there's one by the creators, I believe, of Overcooked. I think
it looked like Overcooked, yeah.
So they did one of them. I don't know which one. Then there's the one on Game Pass, and then there's Get Packed, Moving On, and then there's some other one. I believe there's another one. I could be wrong, but it's just they all have that super similar art style, and it's just like the mess of like running around, which is weird. But
it's a weird choice. Again, like when you had the Battle Royale craze and everybody trying to get their feet wet in that and drop their version of it. Okay, that's a massive game style. But multiple developers moving towards the moving arcade sim is a weird choice that I would have never predicted. So I don't know what that's all about. Mm-hmm. But again, yeah, hey, more games for Stadia people to be able to play, I think is generally a positive thing.
Yeah.
But again, if they're trying to make that jump and really give Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo a run for their money and kind of dominate that streaming space, they need to do more than this. This is not going to cut it. They need day one versions of major AAA experiences or major pulls from exclusives. Like, if you want Stadia to latch on, hey, be the first one to take a real Nintendo exclusive and put it on your platform. That is what it takes. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that.
Fight for it.
Yeah. Day one, be there with that Stadia. The Stadia version of Horizon, for example. That's the kind of stuff they need to be doing. Big moves. But again, I just don't think Crata is going to cut it. I just don't know if any... And not to mention...
Yeah.
All the quote-unquote Stadia exclusives they're talking about, I think, for the most part, are all timed exclusives, if I'm not mistaken. They're all first-on Stadia type situations, which, okay, is cool. There's something there offered for your service that gives you an ever so slight leg up on other ones. But again, if you're talking about a timed exclusive and no true Stadia exclusives, again, that's not a good look for a brand new platform. If you're really trying to not only break into the game industry, but stay in the game industry and be kind of an industry staple, especially going into next gen, you need to give people a reason. And again, I went over this last week. You need to increase your value proposition. And yet again, I feel like they've shown a reason why. I wouldn't say they're not cut out for the game industry, but I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what it takes to really break into the industry. And as of right now, they've given me no better value proposition than the Ouya did in 2013. So, yeah.
Yeah. I just think just Stadia is also in this spot where it's like some of these announcements would be better if their service was working. You can't get Stadia on your phone is a big one of the people. You can't get it if you don't have their Google Pixel phone, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's not on iOS yet, right? Too?
No, it's not on iOS, and it's not on most Android devices. It has to be the Pixel, which is weird. So in a perfect world, yeah, I would love to be able to play Jedi Fallen Order, bring my save anywhere I go, from my TV to my computer to my phone. And I know there's lots of issues where it'll be super late when Stadia comes to iOS. But until these other features that you still have promised come to fruition, you're not going to be there. And they're still doing this weird tongue-in-cheek, like, hiding info. Like you're saying, they acted like these games were exclusive, but it's like first on Stadia. Does that mean 2 weeks, a month? Some of these, I don't see any of these games that were like, you have to play this right here, right now. Most of these games where it's like, well, if you want to play it, you'll play it. If you want to play that moving game, well, there's 2 other ones out right now.
And this, if anything, and sorry to interrupt, but this shows me that they're not paying attention. And the reason I say this is we were in this exact same position with Microsoft not too long ago. Do you remember when they did their E3 presentation and they had these first on Xbox exclusive and they were playing around with the jargon all weird, and everybody universally in the game industry being like, no, that's not it. No, these are not exclusives. And the fact that now, years later at this point, they make the exact same mistake tells me, yeah, they're not paying attention. They're not listening. They're not doing their homework in the game industry. We've already taught developers and publishers this lesson. It's like, listen, if it's not on an exclusive, don't try to market it like it is. Because again, you're misinforming people who will be like, oh, okay, this game is only on here. Let me jump and make sure I get this console. And it's like, wait a minute, this is on another console. And again, I'm by no means a fanboy, and I only want exclusive on this one console. But there is a financial reality to having exclusives. And yes. I just feel like they're not misinforming the public because, again, they're making it clear it's first on Stadia. But that kind of nomenclature of first on blank exclusive is just not something that resonates with the average person. They made it clear with Microsoft, and now years later they're making the same mistake. And again, they're just showing that they're not paying attention. People over and over again have expressed the fact that it's like, where are the reasons to be on Stadia over other places? And they have yet to deliver on that promise. And again, we're talking, this Stadia has been out for a bit now. And you can only have the excuse of like, okay, well, it's only the first year. It's only been a couple months. Give them a chance. Who comes out of the gate swinging that hard? Okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But now we're reaching the point where you guys have been out for some time now. Mm-hmm. You can't say that like we're some kind of small indie dev. We don't have the resources to deliver. Give us some time. This is Google. You do not get bigger than Google. It's Google, Amazon. Like there's only so many of these massive companies. You guys got the resources.
Exactly.
I don't know what the slowdown is. You guys have the relationships. You have the throw money at a wall if you need to. Throw a couple million at a developer and be like, hey, make something for Stadia and only Stadia. There's no reason to make this, have this slow drip feed progression. Like I just don't understand what they're doing here. But again, I want them to succeed. Not so much for Google because I don't have Google shares, so I don't really give a crap whether they do good or not. But I hope they do good for all the people who have put their hard-earned money into the Stadia ecosystem and who really believe in this. And I want, for their sake, for them to get their money's worth out of this. I never want to see anybody fail because I know how hard a lot of these developers and a lot of these coders and a lot of these people who work at Google work on this service to deliver a great experience to the best of their ability. Mm-hmm. And it's up to the customer the salespeople and the execs to make those connections worthwhile to basically make this whole system succeed. And so I just hope for all the people involved who have put in tireless amounts of work hours and money into this ecosystem for it to succeed. And I would hate to see it fail and abandoned, after a few years. I think that would be a mighty shame. Not to mention, I think it's a bad look for Google, and I think it's a bad look for the streaming games as a concept in general. And again, I know Project xCloud is delivering an amazing experience as well. But as of right now, Xbox is involved in a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. And so when you think of Xbox, you're not thinking of necessarily game streaming. But when you go to Stadia, they're kind of the first guys, other than kind of the NVIDIA streaming games initiative that came out some time ago. They're the first ones in the modern game ecosystems to be solely going for the game streaming, no installs, no extra hardware type system. And I think that's a good idea. And I would hate for them to kind of tarnish that idea because of a botched execution,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, yeah, you said it perfectly.